G'day guys, Mackie with the Outer Circle, and welcome to another episode in Getting Started in Horus Heresy. This week we're looking at the Blood Angels. Now, the Blood Angels are one of those funny legions like the White Scars and the Dark Angels before them, where basically they're not out yet. We have rules for them, but they're a bit minimal. There's no specialist units, no Primarch. We do have Rights of War, but we don't know how their specialist units are going to fit into it later. This, of course, complicates things, because it means we don't want to specialise them too much just yet. And this is something that I did with my own Thousand Suns, and which I learned previously working on the Raven Guard. And that's just go for the basic stuff, fill in a few key Force Org chart slots, buy a couple of things that are diverse and can be used for different units throughout your army later on, build around that core philosophy, and then go forward from there. Anyway, with that in mind, let's just look at a few of their special rules and bits of war gear. So, first of all, they've got a rule called Carmine Fury. What it basically means is you add +1 to your to wound roll. This is fantastic because it means you'll wound like anything that you'll wound on 6s, you wound on 5s, stuff you'll wound on 3s, you wound on 2s. Of course, it maxes out at 2s. Also, keep in mind it's +1 to what you actually roll. But for things like, say, Toughness 8 creatures, Toughness 9 creatures, you couldn't wound them in the first place, therefore you don't get to roll. Therefore, you can't +1 it, so you don't hurt them. Of course, if you're throwing, say, crack grenades or melter bombs at a monstrous creature, then yeah, you would get the +1 to wound on that. Also, it isn't something like Furious Charge or any other charge bonus, so you can add it to it. Add it to Furious Charge. Add it to any kind of like Rage or Frenzy or whatever. So, what else? Must always sweeping advance, may never go to ground. That's kind of something that a lot of the legions have, variants of that sort of rule. Some can't go to ground, some have to advance instead of getting pinned, some run away instead of getting pinned. There's usually a morale constituent in most of the legions. Also, they can't take more vehicles than units which have the Legiones Astartes rule. Now, that's a pretty easy one to get around, because generally if you have a transport or a dedicated transport, they'll usually be a marine that's inside it, which will offset the cost of it. So, yeah, not really a problem. Now, when we look at the war gear, it's interesting. You've got the sort of things you'd expect, like the hand flamer and the Inferno pistol. Now the Inferno pistol is, well, it's pretty good on Moritats. Why? Because the Moritats are kind of a bit of a piece of shit right now. They just over-nerfed them when they fixed them. You see, what they had was an option. They could have given them like 1s and 2s get hot, or maybe can only ever hit on a 3+, or any kind of different way of getting around it. Instead, they just piled on a bunch of different rules to nerf the Moritat at the same time, and it was too much. All they should have done was probably just a flat, you can never fire more than 6 shots per pistol or something. But in any case, give 1 to your Moritat, probably not worth justifying the extra points to give a second one to a Moritat, but in any case, 2s to hit. It's going to be pretty consistent. Strength 8, only downside, short range. The hand flamer itself doesn't have a to hit roll, so it doesn't actually stack with the Moritat. Even though in theory, as long as you score a hit, it would carry over. Well, apparently it doesn't. I have had this debate with a few people where I think it's personally a loophole, where firing the hand flamer, if a Moritat hits with a hand flamer, then it will automatically hit again. You get an infinite amount of flamer hits. Yes, it's retarded. It is something that shouldn't have been put in. Anyway, a little bit sidetracked there. What's really cool about the Blood Angels is they get access to the Elastis Pattern Assault Cannon. Now, the funny part is this: any model with access to a heavy flamer may replace it with an assault cannon for just 5 points. Predator tanks can replace their auto cannons with a twin-linked one for free. That's broken. It is very broken. Now, some people argue the point that oh no, look, you pay a lot of points for it, blah 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 blah. 5 points isn't that much, and heavy flamers are not the most expensive upgrade you can give a vehicle. You put it on the right units, it will pay for itself, and with that in mind, that's what I've done with this list. So keep that in the back of your head. Oh, also, quick point on that, twin-linked heavy flamers count as a different weapon to heavy flamers, so you can't change a twin-linked heavy flamer for an assault cannon. Yeah, that's stupid, but hey, at least it kind of reins in the power creep a little bit. As for weapons, to finish it all off, they do have a close combat weapon, the Blade of Perdition, commonly known as the Blade of Salty Tears among Heresy players, because it's a master-crafted, two-handed AP2 power sword. Now, keep in mind, yeah, it's only at strength, but you always get +1 to wound, so you'll pretty much always be wounding Marines on 3s in close combat with it. Oh, and just a minor little thing, every time you cause a wound, it's actually 2 wounds, which they must save independently of one another. Yeah, Salty Tears for a reason, because a Praetor, if he hits with all of his attacks, which could be 7, and wounds with all of his attacks, which again could be 7, you're looking at 14 AP2 wounds caused. Because it doubles. It's fucking insane. Anyway. Blood Angel's equipment, a little bit strange. We don't know what may come later, what may change. I'm hoping that they kind of change the wording for the Elastus Pattern Assault Cannon, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, moving forward. First thing I want to look at is Games Workshop's web store. Now, there's a few little bits here and there which are well worth it. Obviously, I wouldn't take the Primaris stuff. I think that's sort of self-explanatory. And I try and stay away from the Indomitus pattern or 40k style Terminator armor, especially when there's plenty of Heresy marks and generally pretty easy to attain online. Tactical squad, that kind of thing, I'd stay away from it. And most of the characters, just because they're a little bit too 40k in the armor, or they've dated just because Blood Angel's main characters haven't been updated too much. Perhaps the Chaplain with Jump Pack might be usable. Again, convert a few little 30k parts onto it would look great. Death Company, stay away from it if possible, just because they are very 40k, especially in the legs. You could probably get away with the torsos, but they're an after the Heresy sort of thing, so stay away from it. Sanguinary, yeah, you could probably run the Sanguinary. If you get him in Vinecast, you could probably cut his arms off and do something interesting with the pose, but that's what I'm going to suggest for another character, and that is Astaroth the Grim. I think this is probably the best 40k model that would make a Praetor for 30k, so that's why it's here. Cut the arms off, replace it with another weapon, perhaps the Legion Champion who's holding the power sword, or give him 2 separate arms, kit it out however you like. There's so many bits out there that you can use, I'm not going to go through them. Astaroth looks great. You could even use him just as he is for those players who don't want to convert at all, because there is nothing 40k about him. Even his armor is just so stylized, you couldn't say that it's a 40k pattern, even though it is Mark 7. So yeah, Astaroth the Grim, really basic. Use him as your Praetor, use him as Chapter Champion, any of that kind of thing. Further to that, this guy here, the Sanguinary Priest. An excellent Primus Medicae for your Space Marine Legion force. Again, maybe change out the shoulder pads, but they're not too crazy 40k. Blood Angels do have hyper stylized stuff, and being a HQ, you can really get away with it. So yeah, failing that, you can use him as an apothecary in your regular games. Even the backpack doesn't look too 40k, because any of like the cabling or that kind of stuff which screams 40k is all hidden. So essentially, he could be used in either system, and for those who play Blood Angels in 40k and 30k, why not? Why not have a model that can fulfill both roles? So yeah, valid option. Moving on, we get to the Sanguinary Guard. Now, these guys always look fantastic. Yes, the armor is a later mark of armor, and it's a little bit more noticeable on the legs, but again, it's so stylized, I think you'd get away with it, and nobody would really complain. In fact, I think they'd look probably better with a set of Mark II despoiler legs on each of them, but hey, clutching at straws. As far as it goes, this is probably the best way to get either a command squad or a veteran squad armed with crazy power weapons. So take it under advisement. Now let's move away from Games Workshop and the bits that they make for Blood Angels and look at the Legion Moritat. Again, what are the options? Well, you got Volkites, Plasma Pistols, Bolt Pistols, and of course Inferno Pistol and Hand Flamer because you're Blood Angels. I would suggest an Inferno Pistol and then either a Plasma Pistol or a Volkite. You can't go wrong. One of the things I have heard about the Blood Angels, and take this with a grain of salt, but my sources are pretty good, the Blood Angels are getting a Destroyer unit for one of their special Legion units. So you may have heard it here first. And of course, being a Moritat and able to join those type of units, this is the guy you want. So that's a little punch, and it's not something we've really used before in these Making a Legion series. The jump pack ties in really well with the Legion, and with the Encarmine Fury, he can kind of fight on his own in close combat. Not too shabbily. So let's get to the important stuff. The troops. As always, the Forge World bundle, it's just a Forge World bundle. You don't have to go crazy and go out and buy it. You could just go and buy the Betrayal at Kelth box on its own. Personally, I think the Mark IV armor does suit the Blood Angels better. But there's nothing to stop you buying Prospero. I just think you get the better value. I always say you get the better value out of Betrayal at Kelth for most Legions. The Blood Angels upgrades, of course, just make them look very, well, Blood Angels and unique, but you don't have to get it. Of course, the benefit of this, you get 3 squads of 10 Marines, which you can count in any number of ways. You could make them as 5-man squads of tactical support Marines with plasma guns, or maybe you could give them heavy bolters, or maybe you could make them heavy flamers and then upgrade those to assault cannons. You know, you got lots of options here. And you also get a chaplain and a Cataphracti HQ, a squad of 5 Cataphracti, and the disposable Dreadnought, which you won't use because it's a piece of shit. Of course, this is the upgrade set itself up close. As you can see, it's a nice little set, some good pieces there. Even if you don't want to use them throughout your army, maybe just buy one set and use them for the champions in each squad. The squad sergeants, veterans, HQs, that kind of thing, just to make them stand out a little more from the guys around them. Because 30k armor marks tend to be really plain and pretty much all the same. So it's a way of spicing it up. Now, considering that we just talked about troops, let's look at transports. 3 Rhinos, and in this case I've chosen to display them with the Blood Angels doors. Because, well, they're easy to fit, they look great, and you don't need to be a pro painter to make your Legion look great doing it. At £130, it is discounted over the standard 3 Rhino bundle, at least here in Australia. In other parts of the world where Games Workshop doesn't rob you, probably overcosted. But, you know, neither here nor there. These Rhinos can also be upgraded to have an assault cannon on top, because of course they can. It does cost a few points, pretty much you're paying 2/3 the cost of a Rhino to do it. But it does look pretty funny when someone sees an assault cannon being fired out of a dedicated transport. The reason though why I picked the Rhinos is they're good, they'll give you the speed and mobility to get around the battlefield for your tactical squads, and those tactical squads are pretty deadly. With Encarmine Fury, they're pretty solid in close combat. They can hurt some of the big nasty automata on 5s. You can also upgrade them and arm them with close combat weapons. So again, you could go for a really assault oriented army just by adding Rhinos. So, assault cannons. I mentioned them a few times. I really like the Proteus pattern Rotor Cannons. Now, Rotor Cannons, do not confuse them with assault cannons. They're much crappier. When upgraded with biocorrosive rounds, great. However, they're basically like a strength 3 4-shot weapon. It's kind of pathetic. Yeah, where it's at is definitely the assault cannon. When it comes to vehicles, speeders, that kind of thing, dreadnoughts, don't feel like you have to use the whole weapon. I find that if you have, like, say, a Pintle heavy bolter, cut the barrel off the Pintle heavy bolter, cut the barrel off this, and plug it onto the end. Looks perfect. So, free advice. Speaking of contemptors, well, I've put the Relic Contemptor here. It's not the one you have to use, there's never a have to option. These are all just my suggestions. But it's blingy enough to work for Blood Angels. It's got iconography, but it's not over the top, and a few decals here and there, a couple of blood droplets, you're laughing. Even one of the stock Marine Blood Angel heads, replacing the Contemptor's head, will look fantastic. As for weapons, 2 fists. Yes, that's right, you want to build it for close combat. You want to put in each fist an assault cannon, because you can. So you can have a Dreadnought that gets to have its cake and eat it too. It can punch things in close combat and it can gun them down like the best of them. It's the best of both worlds, and it's armor 13 on the front, come on. In fast attack, a Javelin attack speeder Squadron. Give them missiles and give them assault cannons again. And like I was saying before, just cut the barrel off the front of the heavy bolter and put the Rotor Cannon barrel on it. Perfect assault cannon, pintle mounted. Derrideo Dreadnought. Now, this is one of those funny ones. I use the Derrideos pretty often. In this case, I've gone for the las cannons because they're just better at killing vehicles. And this army could use a little more vehicle killing power. Do keep in mind though, you are limited to the amount of vehicles and walkers you can get because of the troops requirement in the Blood Angels force. Now, quick downside, can't upgrade it to nipple assault cannons. I know it's disappointing, but remember what I was saying before about twin-linked heavy bolters, twin-linked heavy flamers. They're considered a different weapon to heavy bolters and heavy flamers. Therefore, can't be an assault cannon. No assault nips. The Leviathan Dreadnought, on the other hand, does allow you to take assault cannon nipples, and you probably will do it. So take the Siege Drill, take the Claw, take the Phosphex Discharger, make him run around with your Moritat. You'll have loads of fun, and of course assault cannon nipples, so he's still got plenty of DACA. Now earlier I mentioned the Terminator Squad, and of course there's also the Command Squad. If you choose to mount the Command Squad on foot, or use the Terminator Squad in game, perhaps consider the Mark IIB Land Raider as a dedicated transport. It is Heresy legit, and it is an assault vehicle, and it can take frag assault launches, which have unlimited uses, so there is that. Plenty of upgrade options for it, can take assault cannons as well. Does have a little bit of anti-tank firepower in the twin las cannons, but we all know what a Land Raider does. If you've been in this hobby for any length of time, you know they're just a reliable vehicle with good armour that generally will get the job done. Word of warning though, this is the Land Raider upgrade set. Look at the doors, look at the shape. This is designed for a standard plastic Land Raider. The Mark IIB Land Raider, at least on the doors, they use Rhino side doors. So if you go and buy this set, the only part you'll be able to use out of it is the front hatch, which is why I'm not suggesting it, because frankly I think that's bullshit and you're throwing away your money. Don't do it. Now, last but not least, the decals. Yes, this is one of the better transfer sheets for the Legions. Comes with some fantastic banners, some pretty heraldry like this Sanguinius wannabe straight out of Colosseum. You can mount let's just call him Marcus Aurelius here. You can mount him onto the doors of your Land Raider. There's also this really interesting sort of knotwork that's based around the bottom of the decal sheet, which you can apply, which looks fantastic. As you can see on this Thunderhawk here, they've placed the knotwork on. Looks like something out of like a Renaissance era novel, or maybe an old English Bible, something like that. Looks great, fantastic modern decal sheet. Plenty of markings, a lot of crazy stuff, and a lot of things that can really make your vehicle stand out and look pretty like Blood Angels should. So, we're at the end of it now. My final thoughts. Blood Angels are one that's going to change. So the army I've tried to present here as an example is something that is good at everything, jack of all trades, master of nothing. I've not tried to hyper specialise in any one area. I haven't filled it up with assault cannon infantry, that kind of thing, because you never know what will change down the line. Instead, by suggesting things like speeders, rhinos, land raiders, vehicles that will always come in handy. The Dreadnought, which will kill armor and kill flyers for sure. The Leviathan Dreadnought, which although very pricey in points, will earn those points back if you play it well. Contempted Dreadnoughts, again, something that always good, and the fact that it can take the 2 assault cannons, have its cake and eat it too, it is just great value for points. Regarding the infantry, there is so much that can be done with them, but we don't know what the big picture for Blood Angels is going to be, so I don't want to tell people to go out and spend all their money on, get 60 Blood Angels infantry, kit them out for close combat, and just run them all in rhinos or land raiders. It may not work out that way, so I'm not going to suggest it. Instead, this is the sort of army where you build it, you can paint it over the rest of this year, and then December comes, and hopefully, as they've said, Book 8 will drop, and all of a sudden you're going to have all these extra rules of Blood Angels, and your army is ready to go. All you got to do is buy like that 1 or 2 units, or 1 or 2 squads that you don't have, and you can throw them straight in, and away you go. You can go out and kick ass. And this army here today will be fine in games. It will do perfectly well. Anyway, don't have to do it the way I said, as always. This is just my suggestion to you. As someone who's been playing 30k since the very start, and been playing Warhammer for, since middle of 2nd edition, so pretty bloody long time, 93 or 94 I think I started this game. This is my advice on how I do it. Doesn't mean I'm right, just means from experience this is what I've learnt, and generally the hard way. Pissing away money on the wrong things, going out and buying the wrong squads, getting my eyes on that super heavy tank or that land raider or something at the wrong time. No. Always start basic, and if there's any extra advice I can give, start with the Betrayal at Kalthbox. Get the troops, get the HQ, you've got the core of an army there. At the smallest level, you've got the most basic army. That means you can play games, and games build enthusiasm. If you have an army that you're painting and you just don't get to play it for 8-10 months, you're not going to want to play games. It's just sitting there. No, instead, go out and buy something you can play games with. Build the Marines, play a couple of test games, give yourself a goal, like paint a squad every month, just 1 squad of 10 guys. How easy is that? That's 1 guy, like every 4 nights. You can do that. Then go on and say, alright, I've now got my basic guys, let's buy some transports for them. Then you go and buy the Rhino bundle. And then you say, alright, I really want to work on my HQ now. So then you go and you get the Sanguinary Guard, probably for cheap off eBay. And you get an Astorath the Grim or something, or any one of the other characters that you really like, and add it to them as well. And then you go, oh, that's cool, now I need some killing power. And then you go out and you buy like, a Dreadnought or a Leviathan, and you add them in. And slowly, bit by bit, over the next few months, you'll build up an army that you can be proud of. And you won't feel like walking away. You won't turn it into a half-finished project. Because half-finished projects, I tend to note they don't happen from 1 squad. Half-finished projects come about because someone goes out and they buy a whole army at once. And then it just becomes too daunting to paint it all. And they go, oh, I was really keen, but as the months have gone by, it's just so much on my plate to do. No, don't do that. Break it down to the smallest thing possible. And these are Blood Angels. You can literally hit them with a can of red paint, paint the trim, paint their icons, paint their bolt guns, and then just a quick wash, and you'll have a tabletop standard army. It may not be the greatest army ever, but it doesn't have to be. As long as you show that you're putting a little bit of effort in, people will reward that in Heresy. We won't laugh at you, we won't put you down. No. The only reason people will put a person down is because they're either a genuine shitlord, or because they're clearly just cynically throwing something together. Like they're using their 40k minis as 30k minis and acting like, nah man, that's fine, that's the way it's meant to be. That's when people pick on you. So don't feel like you have to achieve some sort of Forge World Golden Demon crazy painter standard. That's not the goal. The goal is just to paint things and have fun. Anyway, I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching the episode, and I'll see you all next time.